Do these 5 things when you wake up a dead classic Mercedes. Of course, contextually, I'm talking about any classic car, but this is a Mercedes channel, so there may be some Mercedes specific things here. So one of the reasons I made this video is because it looks like I've generated enough interest in these cars to where some of my subscribers are actually attempting to buy very dead Mercedes and wake them up, which is good. So now I want to tell you what to do before you start buying parts and spending a lot of money and time in a project to determine what direction the project needs to go. If you're looking at a major engine rebuild, or if you're looking at, a car that's going to wake up without too much intervention. So the first thing that I think should be done if you get one of these cars is engine oil analysis and, if possible, oil pan inspection. Now, what am I referring to here? Well, an oil analysis is when you take a sample of the oil and you look for trace minerals in the oil that could indicate a major engine problem. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, sometimes a car could have been parked for a reason that is not clear, such as a broken piston ring or a crankshaft bearing failure or a fuel system issue or an electrical problem. We want to make sure that the problem that caused the car to be parked was not a major engine problem or transmission or rear end problem. You can do an oil analysis on any type of oil from any type of assembly that uses oil. Usually when we are doing an oil analysis, we're looking for above average amounts of copper, lead, aluminum, or in some cases chrome from rocker arms or steel from cylinder liners, such as on a diesel engine. And what these oil analyses will tell us is whether or not our engine's about to grenade. Now, if possible, you can't do this on every Mercedes, but if possible, if your Mercedes that you're waking up has a removable oil pan, take that oil pan off and try to sift through the contents of the pan and see what you can find. A great example would be when we were working on a 1970 280 SL that had not gotten much use in the last 30 years. We found a tiny 1 by 1 millimeter square of chrome which indicated a failing rocker arm. And we were able to take all the rocker arms out and identify actually which rocker arm was going bad. And of course, this could score the cam, and the cam could fail after that. So, you really don't know what you're going to find, but it's a great idea to analyze these things. Now, a second thing that is absolutely essential to do on any classic Mercedes is cylinder lubrication. If it's been sitting for a long time, you pull the spark plugs or the glow plugs, inject oil into the cylinders, and let the engine sit. Let it sit for a week with Marvel Mystery Oil or Croil or ATF and acetone or diesel fuel. Some kind of thin, oily, semi-solvent or penetrant that can get in between the rings and the cylinder wall so that they can free up. After it's sat in there for a week, then slowly by hand, not with the starter. Do not use the starter. Rotate the engine by hand and see if the engine turns easily. If the engine's passed its oil analysis, then this is a good sign, because it means that if you slowly turn it, the piston rings will eventually come unstuck. They'll clean any rust or corrosion off the walls, and then you're free to use the starter to crank it to blow everything out. Now, a third test to do after you've done the lubrication of the cylinders is a compression test. Now, why do I say this? So you want to make sure that you don't have stuck piston rings or a problem with the engine having enough compression. Now, why do I say this? Well, it's because an engine can pass an oil analysis but still have a scored cylinder liner or broken rings. And you can't see these things unless you take apart the engine. So doing a compression test is a good idea in case you have a problem that is not readily visible with the engine's pistons or valves. Doing a compression test on a diesel may mean purchasing some specialized equipment. On a gas car, it's very easy to get a compression tester. You can usually get one at Harbor Freight or Northern Tool or your local auto parts store. But typically the rule of thumb on gasoline engines and Mercedes gasoline engines is if you have a low compression US spec motor, you want to see 140, 150, 160. If you have a high compression 9 to 1, 9.5 to 1, 10 to 1 engine, you want to see more than 150. You want to see like 160, 170. You know, a really good engine is like 200 psi, which is, you know, you want to make sure there's no unnecessary amounts of oil in the cylinder, but good thing to do. Now, fourth item, always check the gas tank for rust. Why? Because this will be the single biggest obstacle to making any car run, is the tank rusty. Couple ways to do this. You can remove the fuel cylinder and shine a light in the tank, and also swab the top of the tank because that's where condensate builds up. You can use a camera to inspect the tank. You could drain the tank, remove the strainer, which I strongly advise you do in a car that's been sitting for a long time. Look and see what's building up in the strainer. Diesels can have fuel tank rust as well. Fuel tank rust sometimes can be so bad that it eats tiny little holes in the walls of the tank. So you want to fix this so you're not leaking gas everywhere or leaking diesel everywhere. How many times have I seen rusty tanks in cars that were sitting? Well, it's typically what we see. So there's no easy way out. The fifth item that I strongly recommend, make sure that the car does not have a timing chain issue. Now, when I say a timing chain issue, I'm specifically referring to M116 and M117 engines, but I could also be referring to broken upper chain guides on M119 engines. This does happen, or a very loose chain. Why? Because a valve train issue due to a failing chain tensioner or worn out chain could cause catastrophic failure when you go to run the engine or start the car. How do I know? Because when I bought my 280 SE 3.5, the tensioner didn't hold pressure. And the next day, after I brought the car home and I went to go start it, the chain jumped and bent the number 6 intake valve. Not a good day for Pierre. So this was many years ago, by the way. This was like 2008, December 27th, 2008. So many of us think to ourselves, maybe it'll run. Maybe I could just crank it a little bit. Maybe everything's good. But what I'm trying to teach you is a way to make sure that you don't cause more problems for yourselves by breaking a piston ring, jumping a chain, pumping rust into an otherwise healthy fuel injection system. You have to take these precautions before you wake up a car that's been sitting for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Sure, it's easier to just, you know, raw dog it and throw some gas in a battery and see if it runs, but most of the time it won't. You'll just end up causing more problems. So please take my advice. Thank you to everybody who subscribed. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with a friend who also likes older cars or has an interest in older Mercedes. And if you're supporting us on Patreon, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.